30 spokes are joined together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that allows the wheel to function. We mold clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that makes the vessel useful. We fashion wood for a house, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it livable. We work with the substantial, but the emptiness is what we use. All throughout the Tao Te Ching, we are instructed to learn to embrace emptiness, or to become empty. Today, I want to talk a little more in detail about why it is important to empty ourselves and what that means. This idea of emptiness is certainly open to interpretation, but for me, I've always seen this emptiness as an ability to let go of desires and to allow our minds to be free of distractions, ambitions, assumptions, and arbitrary ideas about the way things ought to be. Lao Tzu offers several examples of things that are useful because of their emptiness. A cup, a room, the center hole of a wheel. Notice that in each of these examples, an argument could possibly be made that the emptiness is useful not for the fact of its emptiness, but because its emptiness allows it to be filled with something else. A cup is only useful because it is empty, because then you are able to fill it with something you want to hold. Likewise, emptiness of the heart and mind is not an end in and of itself, but a means to an end. What is this end? For us to be able to hear our own intuition. Intuition is the lifeblood of Wu Wei. Our intuition is what allows us to take the best path to reach our goals. When we are filled with desires, desperation, and assumptions as to what things are or how they ought to be done, our perception and judgment become clouded. Only when we have put these things aside are we able to hear the soft voice of that guide. A person who is set upon a goal may exert great effort for months in order to accomplish what a person who is empty enough to listen to intuition can accomplish in a few days. Our intuition is able to show to us shortcuts and workarounds that we wouldn't otherwise see. It teaches us things about ourselves that we wouldn't otherwise know, and that allow us to complete our tasks in ways that work for us. If we can allow ourselves to let go of assumptions about the way things should be done, we will be open for our intuition and subconscious to help us out. In thinking about how best to describe this concept, I was reminded of a story I read in the excellent book, The Inner Game of Tennis by W. Timothy Galway. In the book, Galway tells about a coaching session he was having with a new tennis player. Galway was an experienced tennis coach who had always taught by the traditional method of watching the client play and then offering critiques on individual things the player needed to improve about his or her swing, grip, footwork, or any number of other things. However, Galway began to notice that as he would give players these instructions, they would get so bogged down about trying hard to think about the things he was telling them that improvement was slow and painstaking. So in this lesson, he decided to try something different. While teaching a man he names Paul, instead of giving him various pointers, he told him to watch while he, the instructor, swung the racket in the proper way 10 times. He told Paul to simply watch him, get a mental image of what he was doing, and then repeat the motion himself. After he had done the stroke 10 times, Paul said, "I noticed that the first thing you did was move your feet." Galway didn't reply to this, but told Paul to imitate the motion as best he could. Paul swung the racket in a near-perfect imitation of what Galway had done. It was an incredible first attempt, far exceeding the instructor's expectations, except for one thing. Paul forgot to move his feet. He had done everything almost perfectly, except for the one thing he had been consciously trying to do. When we get caught up in trying too hard to do things the right way, we often find that we are unable to do them correctly. By trying too hard, we get in our own way. This is why this state of emptiness is so important. This is the concept of action through non-action. The best work we do is usually instinctual and largely subconscious. If we can learn to empty ourselves of doubts, judgments, desires, and preconceived notions, we will find our ability to perform in useful ways will be greatly increased. As always, if you have any questions or comments about this chapter, feel free to ask them in the Discord or in the comments section, and I will see you all tomorrow for chapter 12. Peace and blessings.